You didn't stumble upon this audiobook by accident. Something inside you is searching for clarity, for strength, for meaning. Here at Audiobook Light, we don't just read books. We speak to the quiet part of you that's ready to grow. So put on your headphones, and let's begin the journey within. Subscribe now if you're ready to grow in silence and rise with intention. There is a pain no one talks about. The quiet ache of someone who knows they are not living as who they were born to be. The restless tension in your chest when you look around and think, this is not it. This cannot be all. You smile, but it feels mechanical. You wake up, but you are already tired. You move through your day, answer messages, complete tasks, but deep down, you know you are pretending. Pretending that this version of you is enough. Pretending that you are content. Pretending that the fire inside you was just a phase. But the fire was never a phase. It was a signal. A sign from the deeper part of you that refuses to die quietly. Because you were not made to blend in. You are not made to settle. You were not made to perform average routines inside an extraordinary destiny. You are meant to win. But you forgot how to act like it. And this book is not here to remind you with gentle whispers. It is here to interrupt your comfort. To challenge every lie you rehearsed about your limits. To call you back to the version of you that does not flinch when called to lead. To strip away the story of survival so you can finally start living like someone born to dominate. The world has told you to wait. To be humble. To fit in. To not make too much noise. But the truth? You were never supposed to be hidden. You were never designed to play small. And you are not here to perform for people who cannot even see the magnitude of your vision. You are here to build something that makes the noise irrelevant. And it begins now. With a shift in posture. A shift in thought. A shift in how you walk into a room and say, I am not hoping anymore. I am acting like I was meant to win. Because that is the core philosophy of this book. Winning is not a wish. Winning is a way of being. And before you experience it in your results, you must embody it in your decisions. You do not become a champion by waiting for proof. You become a champion by living like it before anyone agrees with you. Every decision is a vote for the version of you that wins or the version that watches. Every delay is not neutral, it is betrayal. Every time you shrink, you are teaching your nervous system that power is unsafe. And that must end now. Because the cost is too high. You are not just delaying results. You are delaying alignment. And alignment is what gives your energy direction. It is what makes the door open. It is what turns silence into strategy. So from now on, everything shifts. You wake up differently. You walk differently. You speak differently. Not because something outside you changed, but because you finally remembered who you are. And who you are is someone who does not ask for permission to win. You assume victory and act accordingly. You train your mind, your body, your time to reflect the truth you were meant to lead. You were built for impact. You are not optional. Let the world keep scrolling. Let them keep watching. You are building. You are moving. You are becoming impossible to ignore. Because when you act like you were meant to win, you start to see the world differently. And more importantly, the world starts to see you. Chapter 1. Own the room before you enter it. You do not wait to win when you arrive. You own the room before you enter it. You do not speak timidly and hope they see your value. You carry your value like it is the floor beneath you. You walk in with a decision already made. I am not here to fit. I am here to fulfill. But most people hesitate. They hesitate not because they are unqualified, but because they are unrehearsed in their identity. They wait for someone else to affirm what they know deep down. They wait for applause to confirm their calling. They wait for results to give them permission to believe. But waiting is expensive. And every time you hesitate, you train your soul to doubt what is already yours. You must walk differently now. Not because you are faking confidence, but because you are refusing to betray your calling one more time. You were not made to be invisible. You are not designed to seek permission from systems that never saw you. You were meant to step into rooms like someone who has already conquered the battlefield behind their eyes. Because the real war, it was never the world. It was always your own mind. And the one who wins that war becomes undeniable in any room. Let me be clear, people respond to energy before evidence. They feel who you are before they hear what you say. They know whether you are rooted or reaching. So when you walk in rehearsing self minus doubt, your presence reflects it. But when you walk in rehearsing identity grounded, clear, certain, you shift the room before you speak. You do not need to be arrogant. You need to be anchored. Anchored in the truth that you are allowed to be excellent. You are allowed to lead. You are allowed to win. You are allowed to rise without shrinking. You are allowed to command the space without apologizing for your volume. Because power is not loud, it is decisive. And when you are decisive about who you are, you no longer leak energy into overthinking. You no longer explain your presence. You no longer dilute your voice for comfort. You move like someone who has already decided to stop being confused. This is not fake it till you make it. This is align until you embody it. This is the practice of walking in your sacred art, not to chase productivity, but to train presence. To become the person who no longer waits to be seen. To become the person who no longer doubts their clarity. To become the person who no longer asks, am I good enough? Because good enough is a game for those still renting their identity. You own yours now. You own it through repetition. You own it through refusal. You own it through how you treat your time. Through how you move when no one is watching. Through how you speak even when your voice trembles. And over time your nervous system adjusts. It stops reaching for survival. It starts expecting elevation. And that expectation? That becomes your edge. Because most people walk into rooms asking to be accepted. But you walk in carrying alignment. And when you are aligned, the right people find you. The right moments stay with you. The right doors open for you. Not because you begged. Because you prepared. So from now on, you build differently. You speak differently. You lead differently. You walk into your sacred art not to hope, but to hone. Because the person who hones their mind before the world begins, that person becomes magnetic. That person owns the room not with volume, not with performance, but with clarity that cannot be ignored. You are that person now. Not because you said it once, but because you say it daily. Act like you were meant to win, and the world will have no choice but to adjust to your presence. Chapter 2. Walk like you remember. You have forgotten. Not your name. Not your goals. You have forgotten your origin. The truth buried beneath your years of being small, polite, compliant, exhausted. The truth that you were not made to chase shadows, you were born to cast one. but that memory has been buried under layers of pressure, opinions, trauma, and fatigue. So now when you look in the mirror, you see effort but not evidence. You see motion but not momentum. Listening to this part reminded me of all the times I played small just to feel safe. But deep down, I knew I was capable of more. This isn't just about confidence, it's about identity. And maybe the real shift starts when we stop asking if we deserve to win and start acting like we already do. You see ambition, but not a rival. And it hurts. Because deep down, some part of you remembers. You remember how you used to move when you believed. How your shoulders sat higher. How your voice did not tremble when you spoke. How you walked into the world not asking if you belong but expecting it to respond. That version of you is not gone. They are buried beneath your habits. Buried beneath your hesitation. And it is time to unearth them. Because memory is more than nostalgia. It is your map. And if you want to win, you must walk like you remember. Like you remember what was promised to you. Like you remember the hours you survived that should have broken you. Like you remember the times you lost and still showed up anyway. Because when you remember, you stop performing. You start possessing. You start speaking like someone who knows how to command a room without raising their voice. You stop trying to be impressive. You start being inevitable. Most people are waiting for permission to be powerful. They are waiting for someone else to say, "Now is your time." But you no longer wait. You remember. And in that remembrance, you reclaim everything they told you to forget. You reclaim your ability to decide without checking for applause. You reclaim your power to walk into any room and take up space without guilt. You reclaim your breath not as survival, but as strategy. Because your breath, your posture, your presence, they all speak before your mouth ever opens. So how are you walking today? Are you walking like someone who is renting their future? Or like someone who owns their moment? Are you walking like someone waiting to be discovered? Or like someone who has already uncovered who they are? Your walk is not about ego. It is about alignment. When you remember who you are, your body moves differently. Not to prove. To confirm. You speak slower. You listen deeper. You choose wiser. Because you are no longer guessing. You are grounded. So take this as your instruction. Do not walk like the world is doing you a favor. Walk like you are bringing value with every step. Do not walk like you are hoping they see you. Walk like you have already seen yourself. Because once you remember who you are, no one can take it from you. You do not need a title to lead. You do not need a following to influence. You do not need approval to advance. You need only to walk like you remember. And when you do, you activate something ancient, something sacred. The truth that you were meant to win. Not because you are lucky, but because you refuse to forget. So stand tall. Speak clear. Move slow. Breathe deep. And walk like the ground was waiting for your feet to arrive. Chapter 3. Move like it is already yours. There is a kind of movement that does not ask for confirmation. It does not wait for the numbers, the signs, the applause, or the perfect green light. It does not seek permission to begin. It simply moves because it has already claimed what others are still trying to deserve. That is how you must move now. Like it is already yours. Not because you are delusional. Because you are decided. You are not moving toward your calling like a stranger hoping to be invited in. You are moving like an air returning to their rightful place. The hesitation is shrinking. The self minus doubt. All of that was trained. And now you are untraining it. One bold movement at a time. You were never meant to wait. You were meant to walk in with authority, not arrogance. Alignment. And alignment does not whisper. It commands. It says, I know who I am. I know what I bring. And I no longer pretend to be unsure just to make others feel more comfortable around my clarity. That kind of movement reshapes your life. It breaks cycles. It invites miracles. It makes the impossible look like rhythm. But you must decide how you will move when the proof is not yet visible. Because that is the real test. When you walk into a room and the numbers have not caught up yet. When you make the call and the voice inside still stutters. When you press publish, share your truth, launch your work into your silence. Will you shrink? Or will you move like it is already yours? Let me speak this over your life. You are not here to ask for what has already been assigned to you. You are here to act in agreement with your assignment. Because when you walk like it is already yours, something shifts inside your nervous system. The body remembers. The voice aligns. The energy sharpens. And suddenly the outer world begins to reflect what the inner world refused to doubt. That is not magic. That is mastery. The kind of mastery that says, I no longer perform faith, I practice it. You see, everyone wants the results of belief. But few are willing to move like belief is already the foundation. They are still rehearsing fear. Still negotiating with delay. Still carrying the identity of someone waiting to be chosen. But winners choose themselves daily, loudly, boldly, quietly, without applause if necessary. And when they do, doors open not because they waited, but because they walked like they were already inside the building. You have spent too long knocking. Now it is time to enter. To move like the space was made for you. To speak like your voice belongs in the room. To build like your hands were born to hold what is coming. Because they were. But the only way to know that is to move like it is already yours. And if you fail, move again. And again. And again. Because the ones who win are not the ones who never fall. They are the ones who keep walking like victory is inevitable. And eventually, it is. Not because the world caught up, but because you stopped slowing down for it. Chapter 4. Stop apologizing for your standard. If you want to win, truly win, not just perform well, not just succeed occasionally, not just rise a little, then there comes a moment when you must stop apologizing for your standard. Because your standard is not a suggestion. It is not a negotiation. It is the blueprint of your future. And every time you lower it to make others comfortable, you betray not only your potential but your identity. The world will tell you, be reasonable. They will say, you are doing too much. They will laugh at the way you protect your hour, your peace, your rhythm, your clarity. But the same people who mock your standards will one day ask for your results. And in that moment, you will remember your standard is your sovereignty. It is how you train the world to treat you. It is how you tell your future, I am coming prepared. It is how you remind yourself, I am no longer available for the patterns that once kept me average. Average does not require discipline. Average does not require standards. Average is what you get when you live by default. But excellence. Excellence is the reward for those who defend their expectations like a fortress. Let me ask you plainly. What are you still tolerating that does not align with who you are becoming? What have you called not a big deal just to avoid confrontation? What have you allowed to stay in your environment knowing it dilutes your energy every time you encounter it? Because anything you allow that pulls you away from your mission is too expensive no matter how familiar it feels. It is time to raise the line. Not as an emotional reaction, but as a quiet declaration: this is what I accept. Nothing less. And when people question it, you do not explain. You enforce. Winners do not apologize for clarity. They embody it. They carry it in the way they speak, the way they rest, the way they plan, the way they say no without flinching. Because a no from a person with a clear standard is not rejection. It is protection. Protection of energy. Protection of integrity. Protection of pace, rhythm, alignment, and clarity. When you stop apologizing for your standard, you stop performing for people who never saw your full capacity anyway. And the moment you stop performing, you start producing. You start building from truth. You start moving from wholeness. Because your standard is not for others. It is for you. It is a boundary you set to remind yourself who you are. You are not a person who lets their calendar be overtaken by chaos. You are not a person who waits to be chosen. You are not a person who compromises with distraction. You are someone who wakes up and honors the agreement with your calling. That agreement, it is not casual. It is covenant. And covenant requires you to stop apologizing when people do not understand your pace. Let them misunderstand. Let them call it too much. Let them say, "Who do you think you are?" Because one day soon, the fruit of your focus will answer every question. And by then, you will not need to explain your standards. You will simply live from them. And the life you live, it will be the proof that the standard was never too high. It was simply the minimum requirement for the future you refused to delay. Chapter 5. The future responds to identity, not intention. You can write all the goals. You can visualize all the dreams. You can say all the right words, repeat the mantras, build the vision board. But if your identity does not align with what you say you want, then your future will never open to you. Because the future does not respond to hope. It does not respond to hype. It responds to identity. And identity is not built by dreaming big. Identity is shaped by what you do when no one is watching. It is shaped by the hour you keep returning to. It is shaped by the voice you choose to listen to when the old self whispers, "Just skip today." It is shaped by what you tolerate, what you prioritize, what you allow. Because every time you act in agreement with your highest self, you reinforce your identity. And every time you act in agreement with your fear, your fatigue, your past, you delay the identity you were born to embody. That is why this work is not about being motivated. It is about becoming unavailable to any behavior that contradicts the winner inside you. You are meant to win. But winning is not what you earn. It is what you expect. An expectation is born from identity. So if you want to change what you attract, change how you see yourself. Start seeing yourself as the one who shows up no matter what. Start seeing yourself as the one who protects their time, their boundaries, their energy like royalty. Start seeing yourself as the one who moves from decision, not debate. Because when you act like you are already the version of you who wins your body, your mind, your results have no choice but to follow. That is not theory. That is neuroscience. Your brain is always watching your actions and asking one question: who are we? And whatever you rehearse, your brain accepts as identity. So if you rehearse discipline, you become disciplined. If you rehearse clarity, you become clear. If you rehearse power, you walk in power. You must stop waiting for proof. You must become the proof. The way you breathe. The way you sit in silence. The way you write your plan and execute it without apology. That becomes your gravity. That becomes your magnetism. Because the future is not waiting for you to get more information. The future is waiting for you to finally agree with who you are. And when you agree, you walk like it. You talk like it. You build like it. You live like it. Not as performance, but as a natural expression of your essence. This is not ego. This is ownership. And the one who owns their identity will always outrun the one who is still begging for evidence. Because power moves fast. Power does not stop to ask for consensus. Power does not shrink to be digestible. Power shows up and shifts the room. That is what you are now. Power in human form. But only if you stop reaching and start releasing. Release the old image. Release the hesitation. Release the small talk you have been having with your future. And start moving like the deal is already done. Because it is. You were meant to win. But only your identity can cash the check. Chapter 6. Your energy is your signature. Before you say a word. Before you take a step. Before you open your mouth, post your work, make the call, lead the room, something far more powerful than your skill has already spoken for you. Your energy. Your energy is your signature. It is your truth before you explain. It is your posture before you pitch. It is the unseen language that tells the world who you believe you are. And here is the secret that most ignore: you cannot fake energy. You can fake confidence for a moment. You can fake productivity for a week. But energy, it tells the truth every time. If you are out of alignment, your energy is scattered. If you are over-minus explaining, your energy is desperate. If you are unsure of your value, your energy hesitates. And people do not always hear your words, but they always feel your energy. So if you want to win, if you want to walk through life like someone born for the room, the stage, the opportunity, then you must build your energy from alignment, not adrenaline. Because adrenaline fades. But alignment fortifies. It gives you presence that cannot be stolen. It gives you calm that cannot be shaken. It gives you command without needing control. And it starts with how you show up for yourself. What energy do you bring to your sacred hour? What energy do you bring to your breath, your thoughts, your strategy, your silence? Because how you enter the room is already being rehearsed in how you enter your morning. You do not suddenly become magnetic when the opportunity arises. You become magnetic when your internal world is no longer at war with your purpose. That is energy. And energy is not hype. It is harmony. It is the harmony between what you say, what you do, and what you believe you are worthy of. So if your energy is heavy, scattered, anxious, unclear, look deeper. Not at your schedule. Not at your goals. At your alignment. What are you still doing out of obligation? What are you still carrying out of fear? What conversations are you still entertaining that drain your clarity? Your energy is sacred. It is not a resource to be given away to anything that pulls you out of who you are. From this moment forward, you must protect your energy like it is the gate to your empire. Because it is. When your energy is pure, you do not chase. You attract. When your energy is focused, You do not force. You flow. When your energy is built from truth, you do not convince. You confirm. I used to wait for the perfect moment, more proof, more preparation, more permission. But this chapter made something click. You don't need permission to own your life. You just need to act like it already belongs to you. That one shift changes everything. That is what the world responds to. Not just what you do, but who you are when you do it. And when your presence walks in the room ahead of your words, that is when the world remembers your name. So, take your sacred hour seriously. Use it to cleanse, to focus, to align, to decide. Because that hour is not just about productivity. It is about energy mastery. It is the place where your body remembers. I am not here to prove. I am here to become. I am not here to hope they see me. I am here to show them what alignment looks like. And when you walk like that, breathe like that, move like that, the room shifts. Not because of the resume, but because of the resonance. You have that now. Not because you earned it, because you remembered it. Let your energy lead. Let it say what words cannot. Let it be your proof that you no longer perform for victory. You carry it. Chapter 7. Make peace with outgrowing what once fit. To win, truly win, not just in the eyes of others, but in the quiet of your own soul, you must be willing to outgrow things you once prayed for. This is the chapter most people skip. The part where what was once familiar, once safe, once supportive now feels too small. Not because it was wrong, but because you grew. And growth is not just about addition. Growth is about departure. You cannot take everything with you. You cannot carry every relationship, every mindset, every rhythm into your next level. Some things will fall off naturally. Others you must set down deliberately. Because holding on to what no longer fits does not honor your past, it betrays your future. But here is where the pain comes in. Growth feels like loss before it feels like freedom. You will feel the ache of letting go. You will hear the voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" You will feel guilt for becoming someone they no longer recognize. But guilt is not a reason to shrink. Guilt is the echo of a previous identity begging to stay relevant. Do not listen. You are not meant to make everyone comfortable. You are not meant to carry every connection into your calling. You are not meant to explain your evolution to those who are still committed to their history. Let them go. Let the version of you that needed their approval go too. Because what is coming next requires room to breathe. And some of that room will be created by walking away from what used to feel like home. That is the true test of power. Can you walk away from familiar before you are fully celebrated? Can you release the pattern that once protected you, even though part of you still wants to run back to it when the fear hits? Can you hold your head up and say, "I honor who I was, but I will not build a home in a space I was only meant to pass through"? That is not disloyalty. That is leadership. And leadership means knowing when the chapter is over before it turns into a cage. You must let your sacred hour become your separation. The time where you sit with what must stay and what must be left behind. Not with judgment. With clarity. You do not outgrow from ego. You outgrow from obedience. You realize that what once gave you strength is now costing you focus. And you cannot carry both. So, you bless the past. You thank it. You set it down. And then you walk forward, not looking back to see who follows. You walk with vision. Because people who win do not apologize for growth. They expect it. They plan for it. They make peace with what must end so that what is next can enter. You are not being cruel. You are being clear. You are not abandoning. You are ascending. And your ascent will never be validated by the ones who are not ready to rise with you. Let that be okay. Let the silence settle. Let the new rhythm arrive. And then move from it. Move with power. Move with intention. Move with peace. Because when you make peace with what you have outgrown, you unlock the energy to step into what you weren't really meant to lead. Chapter 8. Your conviction must be louder than their confusion. When you start to act like you were meant to win, people will not always understand. They will question your boldness. They will misread your confidence as arrogance. They will ask you to explain decisions that were never theirs to approve. And if you are not anchored in conviction, their confusion will sound like wisdom. Their doubt will feel like direction. Their hesitation will begin to echo in your own head. But here is what you must remember: you do not need them to understand. You need to stay aligned. Because conviction is not consensus. Conviction is clarity in motion. It is the fire that burns even when no one else feels the heat. It is the voice that says, even if they laugh, I move. Even if they leave, I lead. Even if I am misunderstood, I will not negotiate my alignment. That is what separates winners from watchers. Not luck. Not talent. Conviction. Conviction that says I no longer need agreement to be in agreement with myself. Because when you lead, you will walk alone sometimes. And if you are not prepared for that, you will sabotage your own authority just to stay in someone else's comfort zone. You will shrink your message. You will delay your launch. You will second-minus guess your vision not because it is wrong, but because it is unfamiliar to those who never had the courage to build something of their own. Let them stay confused. Let them stay skeptical. Let them question your fire. Your job is not to convince. Your job is to continue. To return to your sacred R and say, this is not up for debate. I do not need to pull the room. I do not need your agreement to follow my assignment. Because the moment you start living from their confusion, you abandon your crown. And once your crown slips, everything else falls with it. Do not give them that power. Do not make your calling a community project. Do not water down your fire just to stay digestible to those still hiding from their own. You were meant to move differently. You were meant to stand tall when others sit in silence. You are meant to shake rooms, not because you are loud, but because your clarity refuses to apologize for itself. That is what people feel when a leader walks in. They feel presence forged from pressure. They feel decisions made without needing applause. And they either rise or they remove themselves. Let them choose. But you do not change. Because when your conviction is clear, you stop negotiating with every raised eyebrow. You stop defending your direction to people who do not even know where they are going. You stop slowing down for people who were never walking with you in the first place. This is where you rise. Not louder. Truer. You lead with your presence. You lead with your posture. You lead with the unwavering declaration, I was meant to win. And I will not bend just because you are still figuring out your own fire. And the more you repeat that, the quieter the confusion becomes. Until one day, you realize they weren't ever your opposition. Your own hesitation was. And once you silence that, nothing can stop you. Because a person with conviction is not easily moved. They are magnetic. They are immovable. They are inevitable. Chapter 9. The world responds to the one who won't leave the room. There are those who enter the room with talent, and there are those who stay in the room with tenacity. The ones who are remembered are not always the most gifted. They are the ones who refused to leave when it got quiet. When the audience walked out. When the lights dimmed. When the progress slowed. When it seemed like nothing was working. They stayed. And because they stayed, they won. This is the truth no one glamorizes. Success is not a fireworks show. It is not a viral moment. It is not a perfectly timed launch. It is a war of presence. It is showing up again and again and again until the room has no choice but to make space for your certainty. You want to act like you were meant to win. Then stop needing instant validation. Stop measuring your worth by immediate results. Stop leaving the room every time you feel overlooked. Because the moment you walk out, you forfeit the very thing you were building. And most people do not lose because they were wrong. They lose because they walked out too early. The room was about to shift. The door was about to open. The opportunity was circling back. But they could not bear the tension of not being seen. They could not sit still long enough to let the evidence catch up to their energy. That will not be your story. Because you understand now power is presence extended over time. You do not just show up strong. You stay strong. You hold posture when the room is indifferent. You guard your awe when the results are invisible. You return to the rhythm when the applause is gone. You breathe through the resistance instead of running from it. Because you know the ones who win are not the loudest. They are the ones who refuse to leave the room. You are in that room now. The sacred one. The private one. The one where the winners are forged while no one is looking. And you have a choice. To start and stop. To rise and fall back. To get close and pull away. Or to stay. Stay in your hour. Stay in your discipline. Stay in your voice. Stay in your mission. Even if no one else shows up with you. Even if no one claps. Even if the progress is slow. Even if your own mind starts asking, is this working? Because the truth is this. Every time you stay, you build something the quitter never sees. You build resilience that does not need proof. You build momentum that does not break when the mood shifts. You build clarity that does not collapse under pressure. And you build a name not just for others to remember, but for yourself to trust. Because trust is not earned by results. Trust is earned by returning when it would have been easier to disappear. That is how you become unstoppable. Not with perfection. With presence. So stay. Stay like the future is already decided. Stay like the room is about to shift. Stay like the world cannot ignore a presence that has outlived all the noise. Because in the end, the room always responds. Not to desperation. Not to talent. Not to timing. To the one who stayed. Chapter 10. When you act like you were meant to win, resistance becomes your trainer. You can always tell when someone has finally stepped into alignment with their power. Resistance shows up like a storm. Not because you are wrong. Not because you are weak. But because you are now dangerous to your old life. The moment you act like you were meant to win, the winds shift. The pressure rises. The doubts resurface. The path suddenly feels heavier than it did yesterday. That is not failure. That is proof that you are moving correctly. Because resistance is not a sign to stop. It is the weight that builds muscle. It is the trainer that shows up every time you level up your commitment. It does not care how loud your vision is. It asks, will you follow through when it is quiet? It does not care how clear your goals are. It asks, will you stay consistent when no one is watching? You have prayed for discipline. You have asked for strength. You have wished for endurance. Resistance is the answer to all of that. And when you stop resenting it, you start using it. Because the ones who win are not the ones who had the easiest path. They are the ones who learned how to press forward in the presence of pressure. They made the pressure their personal gym. They said, if resistance is showing up, that means my power is rising. Let that sink in. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Prepared to stand in rooms where your presence must be unshakable. Prepared to lead teams, projects, clients, visions without flinching. Prepared to carry weight that others drop because they never trained in the fire like you have. This is not about being fearless. This is about being faithful when fear gets loud. You act like you were meant to win not because everything is easy, but because you do not confuse resistance with rejection. You see it for what it is, a test of readiness. And you answer it with action. Every time you show up when your old self says rest, you're training your winner. Every time you focus when distraction calls, you're training your future. Every time you move without the need for praise, you're strengthening the roots. And those roots? They are what make you unshakable. So when the resistance comes, and it will welcome it. Do not flinch. Do not pause. Do not whine. Just whisper, this is the part where I get stronger. Because this is not about comfort. This is about capacity. And every act of discipline in the storm is a decision that says, I will not return to who I was. I will not abandon who I am becoming. I will win, and I will do it with honor. You were not built to collapse. You were built to carry. You were built to conquer. And yes, resistance is here. But so is your power. And your power is greater. Always. Chapter 11. Keep the crown on even when you doubt you deserve it. There will come a moment, not once, but many times, when your own mind will whisper the old lies again. You are not ready. You are not enough. Who do you think you are to lead, to speak, to build, to stand? And in that moment, you will reach for the crown sitting on your head, not to straighten it, but to remove it. Because a part of you still believes you must earn the right to be powerful. But you do not have to earn what was already given. You do not have to qualify for your assignment when your alignment is the qualification. The crown is not a reward. The crown is a reminder. A reminder of your responsibility to act like the one who already won. To walk like it. To lead like it. To build like it. Even when you doubt. Even when you question. Even when the mirror does not reflect the fire you used to feel. Because here is the truth no one tells you: self minus doubt is not your enemy, it is your training partner. It will show up. It will sit with you. It will whisper familiar scripts. But your job is not to fight it. Your job is to hold your posture anyway. You act like you were meant to win even when you feel unqualified. Because what disqualifies most people is not failure, it is the moment they give their power back to fear. They take the crown off. They trade authority for comfort. They apologize for taking up space. They shrink themselves for acceptance. But when you remember the crown is not performance, it is position, you stop giving it away to those who cannot carry what you are called to lead. Let me say this clearly. You are allowed to feel unready and still move in readiness. You are allowed to feel insecure and still speak with clarity. You are allowed to feel scared and still act with precision. Because greatness is not the absence of doubt, it is the discipline to move anyway. So when the voice rises that says, I never realized how many of my decisions came from fear of judgment, failure, or not being enough. But this message cuts through all that noise. Winning isn't about impressing anyone. It's about showing up fully for yourself. And finally, I'm learning to do just that. You are too much, too loud, too intense, too inconsistent, too late. You answer back not with fear, but with frequency. You return to your rhythm. You return to your sacred hour. You return to your breath, your words, your work. And that return is what keeps the crown in place. Because royalty is not about being praised. It is about refusing to be pulled back into average thinking. And that refusal, that is how you stay ground when the world goes silent. You do not flinch when they misunderstand you. You do not bow when they mock your pace. You do not question your path when the results take longer than planned. You hold the crown. You protect it. You polish it. You become it. And slowly, without noise, without announcement, without permission, you begin to embody the winner. Not just on the good days. Not just when the metrics rise. But on the ordinary days. The silent days. The heavy days. Because those are the days that prove your power. The days you keep showing up even when the voice inside says it would be easier to disappear. That is the test. That is the standard. And that is the moment when the crown is no longer something you carry. It becomes who you are. So hear this now. You are not too late. You are not too small. You are not too far gone. You are already in the room. You are already wearing the crown. All that is left is for you to act like it until no part of you questions it anymore. And when that happens, you do not just win. You become the kind of leader who multiplies victory in others. Because that is what real royalty does. Chapter 12. Rise without permission. You are not waiting on a yes. You are not waiting on an introduction. You are not waiting on your name to be called, your value to be seen, your timing to be declared perfect. You are done waiting. Because the version of you that acts like they were meant to win does not ask, may I? They say, watch me. The old system told you to wait your turn. To be quiet. To be polite. To work harder than everyone else and maybe, if you are lucky, get noticed. But those rules were designed to keep you small. And now that you have remembered who you are, you must rise without permission. Because power is not something handed to you. It is something you awaken inside yourself. And no one can stop someone who is no longer asking. You rise because your hour demands it. You rise because your silence has cost you enough. You rise because you have tasted invisibility, and you will never drink from that cup again. Do not let your fire die in the name of being agreeable. Do not let your purpose rot in the shadow of politeness. Do not let the weight of playing small fool you into thinking you are humble. Hiding is not humility. Shrinking is not service. Silence is not strategy. You were not born to live inside the expectations of people who are uncomfortable with your clarity. You were born to create no expectations by the way you lead with your light. That is how you win. By rising before they validate you. By building before they follow you. By believing before they believe in you. And you do it not to prove them wrong, but to prove to yourself that you are always right to trust the vision. No one will know the price you paid to arrive here. They will not see the days you showed up anyway. The nights you wrote when you were tired. The calls you made when your voice shook. The habits you built when no one clapped. But you will know. And that knowing, that becomes your confidence. Confidence built from fire, not flattery. From rhythm, not noise. From decision, not approval. So make the decision now. You will no longer postpone your destiny for consensus. You will no longer delay your launch for clarity you already carry. You will no longer adjust your pace to make others feel more comfortable walking beside you. You rise. Even if you are the only one who sees the mountain. Even if the room does not cheer. Even if the numbers do not yet reflect the power in your bones. You rise anyway. And when they ask you later who let you in, you will smile and say, no one. I walked in because it was mine. That is what it means to act like you were meant to win. It means you stop asking questions that do not serve your mission. You stop waiting for confirmation. You stop trading obedience for applause. You move. Because movement is your permission slip. And from this day forward, the only yes you ever needed was your own. You are now responsible for your power. This is where everything shifts, not with emotion, but with responsibility. Not in the fire of inspiration, but in the silence of choice. You have walked through the fire. You have stood up to your old patterns. You have remembered who you are. Now comes the question that separates those who taste their power from those who live from it. Will you take responsibility for what you now know? Because once you know your power, pretending to be small becomes self-minus betrayal. Once you have moved like a winner, shrinking becomes a conscious choice. Once you have spoken from alignment, silence is no longer safe, it is a lie. This is the reset. Not a break. Not a recap. I return to authority. You are no longer in rehearsal. You are now accountable to the standard you just created. And standards are not goals. They are identities. You do not visit them when you feel strong. You lead from them when you feel nothing at all. You are no longer the version of you who tries. You are no longer the version who waits. You are no longer the version who dips in and out of momentum based on your emotions. You are the one who acts from decision. And your decision is final. This means you no longer tolerate what weakens you. You no longer negotiate your sacred hour. You no longer speak to yourself like you are still unsure. You no longer let comparison edit your clarity. You no longer downplay your discipline just to stay relatable. You are done explaining. You are done performing. You are done repeating. You are ready to rule. And ruling is not about dominance. It is about devotion. Devotion to what you built in the dark. Devotion to the identity that you forged in silence. Devotion to the rhythm that sustained you when the applause faded. This is what you reset to now. You are the person who shows up without the rush of inspiration. You are the person who speaks from truth, not from the need to be heard. You are the person who leads with stillness, not with striving. You are the person who builds from the belief that you are already what the world is waiting for. No more waiting for signs. You are the sign. No more hoping for affirmation. You are the affirmation. No more wondering if the hour matters. You are the result of the hour. This is the version of you who walks without hesitation. This is the version of you who makes the uncomfortable decisions. This is the version of you who builds without needing to know how every chapter ends. And that version? It does not come and go. It stays. You stay in the standard. You stay in the posture. You stay in the power. Because now you know the person who stays long enough becomes the one who wins. And you? You are already that person. Live like the war has already been won. This is not where you finish. This is where you rise into the life that was already waiting for you. This is not the end of a book. This is the activation of a standard. The line has been drawn. The mask has been buried. The old self has been dismissed. And now you walk forward not like a seeker, not like a survivor, but like a sovereign. Because here is the final truth: you were never trying to become powerful. You were remembering that you already are. You do not return to the start. You do not need another reminder. You do not revisit the doubt just to see if it feels different this time. You live. You build. You move. You speak. You lead. You act like the war has already been won, because it has. You won when you decided. You won when you showed up without feeling like it. You won when you wrote the words with shaking hands. You won when you kept the promise with no one watching. You won every time you didn't let the world convince you that you needed to prove what you already carried. And now that you know how to win, you live like it. You do not dip in undoubt of clarity. You embody it. You do not wait to be called forward. You wake up already standing. This is how it ends. With you walking into your work, your room, your rhythm like it belongs to you. With you carrying yourself like someone who does not need approval to act with authority. With you leading with integrity, not perfection. With you choosing momentum over mood. With you saying, I do not ask to win, I expect it. Not because you are arrogant. Because you are in alignment. You remembered who you are. And people may still not understand it. They may call it too much. Too bold. Too early. Too intense. Let them. They are speaking from the sidelines of a game you are already dominating. They are talking from the past. You are living from the future. And your future? It is not a hope. It is a home you now live in. So breathe it in. This is what it feels like to win from within. This is what it feels like to become someone you no longer abandon. This is what it feels like to wake up and say, this is my life now. I act like I was meant to win because I was. And I no longer need proof. I am the proof. If you've listened this far, then you're not just curious, you're ready. Ready to stop doubting, stop shrinking, and start stepping into who you were meant to be. From this point on, carry yourself like you've already won. Because deep down, you always were meant to.